A stunning act of violence in Idaho where officials say a man deliberately set a wildfire to ambush first responders, killing 2 firefighters and wounding another. All this happened in the city of Coeur d'Alene. A suspect was later found dead near the scene.
There's still a lot we do not know. We don't know the gunman's name. We don't know a motive. But investigators believe he acted alone, and they've been working all night to try to make sense of what happened here.
They are reporting a brush fire going northeast.
It started as a routine call for Coeur d'Alene, Idaho firefighters on Sunday afternoon.
Some law enforcement right now, there's an active shooter zone. Everybody's shot up here. Law enforcement, code 3 now up here.
And quickly turned into an ambush.
Another Coeur d'Alene firefighter down, needs help immediately. We need law enforcement immediately.
With firefighters taking sniper fire. Some were shot, while others tried to find cover from the gunman.
I'm pinned down behind Battalion 1's rig. It's clear to me that this fire was set intentionally to draw us in.
More than 300 law enforcement officials rushed to the scene on Canfield Mountain, including snipers on the ground and in helicopters. Police exchanged gunfire with the suspect. Teams used cell phone data to hone in on a specific area, where they say they found the body of the suspected shooter with a weapon nearby.
Since the fire was approaching, we needed to scoop up that body, and it's compromised, but we had to do what we had to do to preserve the body.
The sheriff did not release his name nor the weapon used. He believes there was only one shooter involved.
We do believe that the suspect started the fire, and it was intentional. This was a total ambush. These firefighters did not have a chance.
2 firefighters were killed, and officials say 1 was injured. In a procession, the bodies of the fallen firefighters were taken to Spokane, Washington.
This is a day that we will not forget. It is the day evil showed its face, and I cannot fathom why anyone would commit such a heinous act.
The 36-mile procession to Spokane included law enforcement officers, firefighters, and ambulances. People were seen on the side of the road and overpasses, waving flags and saluting the fallen firefighters that were driving by. Now, the firefighters killed were from Coeur d'Alene Fire and from Cooney County Fire and Rescue. The other firefighter who was injured is out of surgery, and the sheriff said he's fighting for his life, but is stable. And you may notice a little bit of smoke here behind me. Keep in mind, this all started with a call for a wildfire. It's 20 acres and still burning.
Central BC 5, Central BC 5. BC 5 off state. Some law enforcement right now, there's an active shooter zone. They're shot. BC 3's down, BC 1's down. Everybody's shot up here. Law enforcement, code 3 now up here. 551, 10 or 14 up here. Stop. Get out of the way. 10 or 14. Engine push 551. Do not come up here.
551 copies. Remaining staging. Central from 551.
551.
You get an ETA on light flight, please? What? You're busy. You see what light flight has to offer, go and get started. Also, if you can do enact the MCI for the county, please.
Sorry, I couldn't copy. I was copying BC.
Is at the upper parking lot. Is at the upper parking lot. Up on the dirt parking lot. We need law enforcement up here immediately. Law enforcement up here immediately.
Copy, upper parking lot. Immediately out, law enforcement.
Yeah, another Coeur d'Alene firefighter down. Needs help immediately. We need law enforcement immediately.
I copy, another firefighter down. Continuing law enforcement. I copy. 2 battalion chiefs. 1 off. 1 firefighter down.
Since no one is going to say it, I will. If you're wondering why that guy yesterday shot and killed a bunch of firefighters, ambushed them in Idaho, the answer is very simple. Yesterday was the 24th anniversary of when firefighters in Idaho burned down the property of Aryan Nation. 24 years ago, well, about 26 years ago, Aryan Nation in California and Idaho decided an amalgamation was in their best interest. Don't quote me on that, but I might be wrong. But I do know that one thing's a fact. The Aryan Nation in Idaho and another state collaborated, and then they moved to Idaho. They were trying to build a white heaven in Idaho. And the firefighter, whoever the fire chief in the city, that was not feeling it. So he sent his firefighters, who they used a lot of the building codes, building violations to fuck them up. And they destroyed their churches, they destroyed their compound, they destroyed almost everything those guys were building. The firefighters did, because they used building violations as an excuse to stop the white nationalist Aryan Nation from turning Idaho into their home state. That happened 24 days ago yesterday. So on the 24th anniversary of that incident, a young boy who has guns and access and is angry and is white and whatnot ambushed firefighters and killed them. So if you're wondering why those firefighters died, they died because in Idaho, the firefighters 24 years ago destroyed the Aryan Nation compound and stopped them from expanding.
They have identified the white domestic terrorist who shot two firemen yesterday in Idaho. I do not know if the firemen have lived or didn't live. He was 20-year-old Wess Roley. His parents, surprise, MAGA Republicans. So that makes his ass grandfathered in with the MAGA Republicans. Before Wess ended his life, they say, or somebody ended his fucking life, he set fire to something, and they found his lifeless body up on the forest or whatever. White domestic terrorists. Wess's parents also taught him how to use a pum-pum at 6 or 7 years old. Just to show you the white privilege of it all, Wess had already had a no contact with his mama and daddy because his ass is evil and crazy. That he jumped on a woman and received 180 days in jail. He only served 30 days and they suspended the rest of the 150 days. And that's why his ass was able to get out and do the evil ass shit that ain't no accusations. That's what he did. Wess had a weird ass truck all wrapped up. They love the man with the dead hand. MAGA Republicans ain't worth a damn. And the goddamn kids is just as bad. It's his long-suffering grandmama telling how much she loved her little Roley man. And wouldn't you know it, the media says Wess's evil, demon-possessed ass had mental issues. America, America, God shed his crown out with brotherhood. From pum-pum to pum-pum.
Do you know that Idaho, for some fucking reason, has the highest concentration of white supremacist groups in all of America?
And I can tell you why. So I used to live in the Pacific Northwest, and as a result, I can tell you that Coeur d'Alene is the devil's armpit. That's where all the trash gets dumped. And the reason that area is the way that it is because in the 1970s, one of the co-founders of the Aryan Nations, named Richard Butler, bought a piece of land up there in Hayden Lake, Idaho, which is really close to Coeur d'Alene, something like 40 acres, where he built a white supremacist compound in order to train police officers, military, government officials, anyone who was interested, how to effectively be a white supremacist, both politically and militarily. That has remained a hot spot. In fact, at one point, the Southern Poverty Law Center was able to file a lawsuit and shut it down, but it seems like the land has reverted back into their hands. There is a rich history of white supremacy in North Idaho. The first time that I ever had a pew-pew pulled on me by a police officer was in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. It's an experience I actually talk about in my book quite at length, and I've also talked about in different interviews. And the whole place really just needs to be razed to the ground. It's a shame, too, because it's damn pretty country.
Want to hear a not so fun fact about the Idaho sniper? Obviously the whole situation is not fun. I just meant a little bit more context about where this is happening. It might make it make sense. If you're unaware, there's currently a situation in Idaho where first responders went to respond to a brush fire, and when they arrived, they were fired upon by a sniper that was hidden in the woods on this mountain. 2 firefighters have tragically already been lost, and other first responders were fired upon. Horrifying, obviously. But would it surprise you to learn that this is all happening in Coeur d'Alene? And if that doesn't ring a bell, Coeur d'Alene is that place where that woman was dragged out of that town hall, like one of the early ones, by a bunch of unidentified security guys who were supposedly private security that no one knew who they'd been hired by, who dragged her out of there after they were told to by a man who turned out was off-duty Sheriff Bob Norris, who is in fact the sheriff who's doing all the pressers and doing all the interviews. Yeah, that's him. Who also, by the way, was on some like disability thing from California, though apparently he's perfectly fine to still work. So yeah, that's his home turf. It's same lot. Obviously, that doesn't change how horrifying this is, but I don't know. Kind of feels like it makes sense.
Since the news isn't making the connection for everyone, I'll go ahead and do it. Yesterday was the anniversary of when firefighters in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, burnt down compounds, churches, and buildings that were owned by the Aryan Nation after the Aryan Nation in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, went bankrupt after they were sued by the Southern Poverty Law Center because 3 security guards engaged in an act of violence against 2 Native American people in which their vehicle was pew-pewed into, and the Aryan Nation security guards ripped them out of their car and beat them. Within these legal proceedings, the Aryan Nation went bankrupt, and that property owned by the Aryan Nation was given to the victims of that crime, the Native American victims. And 24 years ago yesterday was the day that the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department came in and used the churches and buildings that were owned and occupied by the Aryan Nations and burned them down as training exercises. And yesterday, when this pew-pewing occurred, it was the 24th anniversary of the fire department going in and burning down these sites. You can go anywhere and read about it. This absolutely did happen, and yesterday was the anniversary. And there is a very long history about the Aryan Nation in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, but even just recently, you can go back and see many instances where these groups have been emboldened, like last February when Patriot Front came to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho to try to cause a riot at a gay pride event, and they completely got away with it. I do want to talk about the actual perpetrator and more thoughts about this case shortly. I just wanted to share this. This is very clearly in my mind what the motive was.
Here's the thing, Idaho has a lot of things, and here's the reason why I know why. Hi, I'm Shag. You might know me as the titty girl. Well, before all of that, my father was a part of the KKK. You can Google this, you could do research, but that's not what this part of this conversation is about. Growing up, I was forced through the white nationalist Christian Presbyterian church. If you're ever told by somebody that they're Catholic Presbyterian, that means that they are part of the white nationalist church. By the way, you're welcome. Idaho, though. Okay, so this specific town that this situation is happening, in the white supremacist, religion, basically, that's what I'm going to refer to it as, because it's the Sharia law of Christianity, to be fair. Anyone who's a part of being birthed in that part of Idaho is actually, deemed as God. I don't know how to explain it, but, in Idaho and Utah are the 2 most godly places that any Christian fundamentalist could be ever born in, according to the white nationalist Bible, is what I'm going to call that. It's a separate Bible than the actual Bible. Yes, my dad is white. If you've made it this far and you have so many questions, yes, my dad is white. My dad married a woman, my mother, in Sri Lanka, because she was brown. White supremacists like to marry brown women that are mail-order brides. If you know anyone who married mail-to-order bride, probably should look at them a little weird. I'm gonna be honest with that. But back to what I was saying, this specific town is very, very religious onto a whole different. They're probably very happy about what's happening right now in America, which I am very terrified of, obviously, because all of their dreams is coming to fruition. So the fact that there's a shooting in the most godly place that white national Christians would take of, and I don't want to put things out there, but if you have ever been a part of the KKK or grew up in it, because, I didn't get a fucking choice. I was a child, so I was forced to listen to all of that. This is really concerning, because there's genuinely 2 ways that this could go, okay? One, it could be one of the white nationalists committing this crime, saying that we need to uprise, and God told him that he needed to do this, so he needed to do this. Or 2, it was probably someone random having a whole mental breakdown, and the white nationalist church is going to say, well, this was an attack on us, so therefore we need to rise up in arms. Because that's a thing. I'm telling you guys, it's a thing that they do. I don't know. I'm just putting my opinion out there. I'm just telling you guys my opinion because I grew up literally in the white nationalist, Christian, Catholic, Presbyterian life, because my grandmother was a KKK princess. You want to Google that? Virginia Fannis. I'll say her name out loud because multiple of my father's caretakers have reached out to me telling me how Virginia Fannis was actually the demon reincarnated towards them. So I'll put her name completely out there. Roland Leon Doyle is my father. My father was a huge part of the KKK, huge part of the police force, military force, all around in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I don't care. He's dead. I don't give a fuck about that. Virginia Fannis is still alive, though. Virginia Fannis is still a part of all of those situations. So yeah, I just wanted to put my opinion out there because what's happening in Idaho is actually fucking terrifying, and I feel like these next few days it's going to become a spiral out of this because someone targeting firefighters, EMS, in the specific part of Idaho, and they happen to be wearing all military gear and a specific gun that they're using, yeah, that's a certified Christian nationalist prepper right there. Textbook.
I don't think a lot of people really realize how long we have genuinely been living in a Handmaid's Tale. The reason why I say that is because Christian fundamentalists have already put themselves in this role, and they want everybody else to feel it. That's literally the whole point of all of this, is because they have the trad wife lifestyle at home and they think that that's great for everybody, so they are forcing that mindset on everybody else, which is insane. But to be fair, it completely lines up with the Christian fundamentalist agenda, which is recruiting and also making sure that people actually stay in your cult. Stay in your cult. I'm going to say straight up, stay in your cult. But this has existed since the 1980s, to be completely fair with you. But the fact that it's going so mainstream because our current president is in full support of the Christian fundamentalist movement has made it very, very dangerous for, I would say, everyday Christians, especially everyday Christian women who are everyday women, nurses, teachers, people who work in the normal field that support themselves or are single mothers, or even they might have kids. It doesn't matter, but they don't need to be in a relationship because women, we believe that we need to be independent. Unfortunately, there's a whole sector of Christian fundamentalist women that completely believe that as women, we should not work, we should not have rights, we should not do anything, and a man should tell us absolutely everything we need to do. And that is what's unfortunately starting to take over into the bills in our country, which can affect, our healthcare, can affect the way we do about things, the way we conduct about a lot of things. So yeah, I find it very concerning that the Christian fundamentalist way is becoming the main way, because this is genuinely what they want. I remember as a child growing up being told that this is the dream. This is literally the dream of the Presbyterian Catholic Church. That the dream is to get the whole country, the whole world to follow their ways. And what's happening right now is that they're starting to make the whole country follow it. It's the entire Project 2025. All of Project 2025 is in full support of the Christian, Catholic, Presbyterian, fundamentalist movement. And that's terrifying. That is terrifying, because as someone who grew up in it, and escaped from it, and to see that the whole country's going to turn to it, yeah, I don't want to fucking be here when that happens.